Hello again, everyone. My name's Curt Conrad, and you're listening to West 4th and Goal, a podcast devoted to high school football fans in north central Ohio. We're coming to you from the IdeaWorks podcast studio on West 4th Street in downtown Mansfield. If you're a small business owner looking for a unique work environment, come on down to 40 West 4th Street and take a tour of IdeaWorks. This week, Noah Jones, who's our regular co-host, is on assignment in New York City, so we made a call to the bullpen and summoned our closer. We've got David Yoder, the hard-throwing right-hander in here. And David, thanks for stopping by.
Hey, glad to be here. Thanks, Curt.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, before we get going, let's take a minute once again to thank Andy McIntyre over at Two Cousins Pizza. Two Cousins is the official pizza of West 4th and Goal. If you're hungry for pizza, subs, or stromboli, give Andy a call at 419-522-2211. Or better yet, stop by the shop at 103 North Main Street. Again, it's Two Cousins Pizza, and they're the official pizza of West 4th and Goal. David, it's kind of hard to believe, but we've reached the final week of the regular season already. Seems like just not so long ago we were just getting started, and now we're ready to put the bow on season 2 here. It seems like as good a time as any to thank the fans who have been downloading us week after week. We've topped 30,000 downloads in 9 weeks this season, which is kind of hard for me to wrap my head around for a group of guys who don't have a lot of experience doing what we do here. I mean, it seems to be going. We're doing something right.
Yeah, it's really one of the things that's impressive about the Mansfield area. We've been called to a lot of conferences, and one of the things that always raises people's eyebrows is how supportive any readership or listenership people are here in Mansfield. So thank you to our listeners. We wouldn't be here, and we wouldn't tell these stories, and we wouldn't make this content if it weren't for you. And we're just very grateful every day.
Right on. Like I said, Week 10 is upon us, and for guys like me, that means Christmas morning is just around the corner. The Ohio High School Athletic Association will release their final computer ratings on Sunday. We'll know then who the playoff teams are. The top 8 teams in each region there are 28 computer regions in the state, and the top 8 teams in each of those regions qualify for the playoffs. If you're a regular listener, probably don't need to explain this to you. But here's the abridged version. It's the top seed in each region will host the number 8 team, 2-7, kind of like an NCAA basketball tournament bracket. The first round games, the higher seed hosts. After that, they shift to neutral sites. Eventually, we'll make our way down to the Pro Football Hall of Fame in Canton. The Tom Benson Hall of Fame Stadium has recently been renovated and rechristened, and that's where the state championships will be there, beginning the last weekend, or the last weekend in November. I guess it kind of spills into early December, but I think the OHSAA made a good choice last year. They played all 7 games. They played everyone's playoff game was on Friday, regardless of division. It was a disaster, especially for guys who make a living covering those games. I can't be every place at once. This year, divisions 1, 2, 3, and 6 will be on Friday nights. 4, 5, and 7 will play on Saturdays. Attendance was a little down last year when they tried to put them all on the same night. I think the original thought was they didn't want to compete with college football. But attendance was down a little bit there, and I think from what I understand, the OHSA, a lot of people contacted them saying, well, we like to go to a game on Friday and on Saturday.
Yeah.
If you throw them all on Friday nights, we can't do that. So I am thrilled to death that they are back on Friday and Saturdays. As exciting as that is, I was looking ahead, and next Saturday will be the opening night for some of those games. It's going to be kind of like Armageddon for a sports writer, because the state cross-country tournament is that day. There's regional soccer games that day, so I can only be in one place at a time, I guess. But as the playoff picture comes into focus, here's kind of what we know. Clear Fork's in, Hillsdale's in, Lucas in, and Mapleton, they're already in. All 4 of them could possibly host the first round game. The Colts and Cubs will be home for sure in Week 11. The Falcons and Mounties will host if they win their last game here. A 5th area team will likely get into the postseason, and that this week's guest happens to be a member of that team. We are glad that Alex Green, a junior at Lexington, could come on down. And Alex, thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Well, how's that sound? Playoff qualifier, Lexington. That's gotta sound. That's gotta be a pretty good ring for you, huh?
Yeah, it's amazing.
Now let's just talk a little bit. I mean, you guys start the season 0-3. You're 1-4 at the midway point. I mean, was there ever a time where you thought this is going to get away from us? I mean, we're not gonna recover here. Or were you guys always pretty confident that you could get it back on the rails? I guess.
We all knew we were a better team than what we've played, and how we've played, and I think we all have had confidence the whole entire time. So.
Now, was there like a light switch moment, I guess, for you guys? I mean, was there one player? I tell you why I asked, because I covered the Mansfield Senior game, and Mansfield Senior was in control of that game for the first quarter. I mean, they were winning 9-0. They threw a touchdown pass early in the second quarter. It gets called back. A few plays later, Caden Berry comes in, blocks a punt, falls on it in the end zone. It's 9-7, and the floodgates just opened. I mean, I think you guys scored 37 points. I mean, was that kind of a turning point for you, do you feel like? Or, I mean, was there one game or one play in one game?
Oh, yeah, especially that blocked punt. That was probably a turning point in our season.
Right. And the following week, you guys beat West Holmes in a crazy game. It was homecoming night at your place. It ended up being 34-33. Just take us through the final minutes there. I mean, they missed a field goal on the last play? Is that what happened?
Yeah, so they had a chance to be up by 2, and I think it was 34-33, right?
Yeah, that was the final.
Yeah, and the kid shanked it left, so we won. Yeah.
What's running through your mind there as that kid lines up? I mean, how terrifying is that?
It was scary. I didn't know. I was just hoping that he was not going to make that.
Right. Homecoming down your way was kind of special this year. Your homecoming queen, Bridget Trago, is it? I believe.
Yep.
Now, she is a student with Down syndrome, and she was elected homecoming queen. Is that right?
Yeah.
Is that a student vote? Just tell us a little bit about that story. That's a pretty neat story.
Yeah. So that was a student vote. So everyone in our school, we vote on a ballot, and she was voted as our homecoming queen.
What's I guess the student? I don't know if you can speak for all the students, but I mean, are you guys glad to I don't know, be inclusive, I guess, and have someone who isn't a traditional high school student, I guess, but she seems to be real popular, from what I understand.
Oh yeah, we're happy for her.
Yeah. Cade Stover, who is a 2-time guest on the show, and he's going to be wearing scarlet and gray next fall. He's going to Ohio State recruit. He was Bridget's escort to the homecoming assembly, I guess, and I mean. And David, you can jump in here. What's that say about a kid who's going to Ohio State and he just wants to make sure everyone's included? That's pretty heady stuff.
Yeah, that's really neat. And I guess, Alex, if you could take us behind the scenes in terms of that moment and that night. Was that something the student body talked a lot about? Because I know it got some press attention, but what was your guys' perspective on it?
Yeah, we were really proud of Stover, and we were also happy for Bridget because she was homecoming queen. That's a pretty big deal.
Did you guys know that Cade was going to escort her? I mean,
no, it was a surprise. Yeah, Friday it was Friday. We had an assembly, and then everyone's escorting their dates, and Stover walks in with Bridget, and everyone just stood up and gave him a standing ovation for both of them.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, it was awesome.
Yeah, that's a cool moment.
And I think that kind of lends itself to a broader conversation. We always like to tackle some bigger issues. I mean, October is National Bullying Prevention Month. Recent research I saw said 1 in 4 students is bullied at some point or another during their high school or pre-college, I guess, careers.
Yeah, well, especially now if you consider the environment high school students, you don't just go to school. There's a layer of social media that keeps you in contact with people,
right?
And usually that's a healthy thing overall, but sometimes it can also create opportunities for unhealthy interactions,
right?
So that in other words, school bullying can follow you home, and it's certainly grown to be a more nuanced issue over time.
Yeah, and I have a middle school age son, and some of the research I was looking at earlier suggested that if it's going to happen, it's going to happen in middle school. And, that's something I worry about for my son every day, And I think it lends itself to the Stover situation. I mean, he's a guy who's an athlete. He's a pretty high-profile guy. I mean, his peers probably look up to him. Do athletes, do you think, Alex, do they have a responsibility to include everyone, I guess? I mean, is that part of the job for an athlete?
Yeah, I think so.
Let's change gears a little bit here. I mean, while we're talking about Cade, I mean, here's a guy who's going to go play at Ohio State. We see him on film all the time. Just tell us a little bit about what's it like to play with a guy like that. I mean, what's it like on Friday nights when you go out on the field with that guy, knowing full well that he's going to be a Ohio State Buckeye next fall?
I think it obviously helps us out a lot. He's a really good leader for us, and he teaches us a lot.
Now we could see what he does on film. I mean, you see that he's 6'5" and he weighs 230 pounds. What is it about Cade that maybe you can't see, like a casual fan can't see on film, that maybe you guys just are, see him in the locker room? I mean, what's he do so well for you guys?
He's a real humble guy.
Yeah.
He doesn't talk much, and he's always out to help all of our teammates, and he always helps out the freshmen if they ever need help, or if anyone's doing something wrong, he always motivates them and helps them.
I was looking at the Lex program. You're listed as a quarterback in the program.
Yeah.
I know you play some wide receiver. You shifted to running back last week in a big win over Madison.
Mm-hmm.
What do you like to do best? I mean, what's your true position?
I've played quarterback all my life, but when I came up to high school football, that's when I played 9th grade quarterback. But then in 10th grade, they needed to move me to wide receiver. Mm-hmm. So I think that's what I like the most.
Right.
Yep.
Now, I mean, you guys are going to lose a quarterback next year. I mean, is quarterback still in your future?
It might be.
Yeah.
It might be.
In addition to being a very good football player, I was poking around. You're a very talented sprinter too on the track team. Is that's you and Malachi? Is it Streeb?
Yeah, Stribe.
He's a classmate of yours. You guys are both. I was looking at the records. You guys are ranked in the top 10 and 100 and 200 times. I mean, how important is track from a football player's perspective? I mean, are there things that you learn on the track or that kind of translate to the football field?
Yeah, I think track helps a lot because football is all about quickness, and I just think it helps a lot.
Yeah. Now, I would imagine with you and Malachi, are some of those relay records in jeopardy here the next couple of years? The 4x1 and the 4x2.
Yeah, I hope so.
Are you guys on those teams?
Yeah, I'm on the 4x2, 4x4, and 4x1.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. And is he on those teams with you?
He's on the 4x2 and 4x1.
Okay.
Yep.
Who? I mean, if you guys make up half, who are the other two on those teams?
Braden Stooch, which is a corner, and also Xavier Wilson. They both are in our 4x1 and 2.
Right.
Yep.
Now, when you were a freshman, Lex was Division II in track.
Mm-hmm.
Last spring, you guys moved up to Division I. What's that jump like?
Oh my gosh, it was horrible.
I would imagine it's pretty significant. I've always been told, it's a whole different world up in D1.
Yeah. Oh yeah, it's crazy. The times are just so much different.
Are the athletes bigger? I guess I would imagine. You run into bigger, stronger guys. You run into bigger, faster sprinters. I would imagine at that level too.
And your margin for error is much less.
Oh yeah,
because everybody else is right there with you.
Oh yeah.
Right. In terms of football, I've been covering football around here for a long, long time, and it always seemed to be that even back into the Ohio Heartland Conference days, way back in the black and white days before you guys were around.
Before color existed.
It was Ashland and Lexington in Week 10. That was always a really huge rivalry game. This year, because there's only 7 teams in the conference, you guys closed your regular season against the Canton South team. You never played them before. There's not much rivalry there. I mean, is it kind of anticlimactic, I guess, to play a team like that?
Yeah, it's pretty anticlimactic, but at the same time, it's also kind of fun because we've never seen these people before, so it's new and it's fun to do.
Right.
Last year we played Thomas Worthington,
right,
which is, I think they're Division I.
I think they are, yeah.
Yeah, so
it's 1 or a Big 2 down there.
Yeah, it's fun playing teams you don't know. I think it gets us ready for playoffs too, since we're seeing new teams.
Right. And while we're talking about that, I mean, it's got to be thrilling to be in the position that you guys are in, knowing that if you win, there's gonna be a Week 11. I covered the team a couple years ago. It would have been when you were a freshman.
Mm-hmm.
That team made it to the regional championship game.
Yeah.
Lost to a really good Toledo Central Catholic team in the snow, I think at Tiffin. But were you dressing at that time? I mean, what do you remember about that team?
That team was just. It was exciting to watch.
Yeah.
It was one of the better teams to come through Lexington.
Did you get any playing time at all, or were you?
Oh no.
I wouldn't think so, because that team. I mean, David, you probably don't remember much about that team, but I mean that team probably had 15 seniors,
19
seniors, and every one of them was pretty darn good
Yeah.
football team.
Yeah.
And the one sophomore who was playing was Stover.
Well, I do remember something about the year. Was that the class where they had been starters for several years?
Yeah,
because
they
the
had,
program reset.
and they took their lumps early
Yeah.
on. I mean, they got roughed up as freshmen and sophomores in a.
So by senior year, that turned around.
Yeah, absolutely. And so, I mean, what are your haven't seen that team, and now all of a sudden, fast forward a couple of years, and you are have the opportunity to play in some of those games. What's that like? I mean, the opportunity to play in a Week 11.
Oh, it's crazy. I mean, I've never done it before, so it's something new and it's something exciting.
Now, do you pick Stover's brain and say, what can we expect in the playoffs here? Or do you guys talk about that, or just focused on Canton this week?
Focused on Canton.
Good. You played quite a bit as a sophomore, right?
Yeah.
I would imagine you guys were 2-8 last year. You were coming off that team that made it to the regional championship game. Was it frustrating for you, or was it just so much going on as a first-year varsity football player that wins and losses were the last thing on your mind?
Wins and losses definitely were the last thing on my mind. It was my first time touching a varsity field, and I was playing safety, and it was just everything was going through my mind at that point.
Right.
Yep.
How has the game changed, I guess, since last? I mean, this year you're a guy who looks like a veteran. You look quite comfortable out there. I mean, how is it? Has it slowed down for you a little bit since last year? I mean, how has the game changed for you?
Yeah, I understand the game a lot more. Well, I think varsity is way different than JV and freshman, obviously, but I don't know. It feels like I'm more up to pace with everybody else now.
Right. You guys aren't playing a conference game this week, but you have an opportunity to potentially win a share of a conference championship. Mm-hmm. Ashland is at Worcester. Worcester's the one unbeaten team in the conference. You guys have one loss. Mm-hmm. So if Ashland beats Worcester, you and Worcester share it. Is there scoreboard watching that's going to go on this weekend on Friday night?
Definitely.
I mean, you guys are you aware of what's happening around like that? Okay.
Yeah. Oh yeah. We're excited.
Right. Now, that playoff team a couple of years ago, you guys lost so much talent off that team. How have you been able to replace those guys, I guess? I mean, it's been 2 years down the road here, but, I mean, do you feel like you've been able to kind of plug in the gaps and continue the program's upward climb?
Yeah, especially after that last year. It was like a rebuilding year, what I'd like to think of it as, because there was a lot of sophomores. There was a lot of sophomores playing that year. But I think I think we have the positions pretty much plugged now. Right.
Now, and it's probably hard for you to believe, and it's probably not even something that you think about while it's going on, but your high school career, regardless of what happens here in the next few weeks, it's almost 3/4 of the way over. I mean, has it gone pretty fast for you?
Oh, yeah.
Does it seem like yesterday that you were, suiting up for a Friday night game for the first time?
Yeah, it does. It went by so fast.
Right. Now, Lex is kind of known for being a basketball school a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
They put together a run last year that got to the Final Four in Division II. They lost to a really good St. V team down there.
Yeah.
Are you a fan during basketball season?
Oh,
I mean,
yeah.
what's it like being because you're not a basketball player, right?
No.
Okay. What's it like? As a student perspective on a team that's doing that? I mean, especially because a lot of those guys. You play football with a lot of those guys.
Yeah.
Is it pretty? I don't know. Is it pretty exciting to watch those guys do what they do?
Oh yeah, it's fun to watch. I think every game they play is fun to watch.
Right.
To be honest.
You can't play any point guard, right?
Well, I did play basketball freshman year, but
is that right?
Yeah, I did.
Because that's the one big hole that they had. Last year's team, Mason Kearns was a guy who was not a real big scorer, but he
Handled the ball well.
and he distributed well to guys like Stover and Josh Aiello, another football player. I think Depperschmidt's on the team. Is that right? Yeah.
Yep.
So I mean, a lot of those guys, and they're all going to be very good this year. I mean, I would imagine that's got to be pretty. I mean, you don't want to look beyond football season.
Yeah.
It's going to be fun to watch those guys in the winter, huh?
It always is fun to watch basketball, especially at Lexington.
Right. Well, very good. Let's take a short break here, and we'll come back and talk about Lex's matchup this week and going forward what we can expect. You're listening to West 4th and Goal. Welcome back to West 4th and Goal. I'm your host, Curt Conrad, and we're here with Alex Green, a Lexington junior. And let's just run around the area from last week. Lex, Alex, you guys hosted Madison. It's a Madison team that's kind of in a rebuild right now. You guys rolled 42-16. You had a pretty big night. Just tell us, just take us through last week. What happened? I think you shifted from wide receiver to running back, right?
Yeah, well, Caden Berry got injured, so they put me at at running back.
And what, about 150 yards? Is that right? Couple touchdowns?
Yeah, 4 carries.
So he's averaging 40 yards a carry, roughly.
Yeah.
As I would imagine, that's a career high then, right? I mean, you.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Very good. Senior high, Mansfield Senior beat Mount Vernon. It's been kind of an up and down season for the Tigers. They're 4-5 right now, with a chance to get to 5-5 this weekend if they were to beat Madison. But they beat Mount Vernon last week, 33-19, and we talked a little bit about the senior high team off the air. That's a pretty talented bunch over there.
Oh yeah.
Just talk to us a little bit about that game, because that's the game that that kind of turned it around for you guys. What did you guys do successfully, I guess, against senior high?
We ran the ball well, I would say.
Right. Yeah, I think Stover had 200 yards
yeah.
that night, and Caden had a big game in addition to the block punt. So yeah, very exciting game. Another exciting game last week. It was West Holmes 56. Ashland 49. If you're a scoreboard operator in Millersburg, your hand's tired from adding all those points or putting all those points on the board. That was, I think, a double overtime game. You guys beat Ashland. You guys beat Ashland. You guys beat both those teams, actually, and they were both super exciting games. I mean,
oh yeah.
They throw the ball. Both those teams throw the ball a lot. I mean, do you play some defensive back too?
Yeah, I play corner.
Okay. I mean,
Yep.
As a guy who has to prepare for that, how difficult is it to prepare for those types of teams?
It's hard because we go week by week, and some teams they're all run, and then
Right.
you come to West Holmes and you come to Ashland, and they just throw the ball the whole time.
And they do it pretty well. I mean,
yeah.
Does that speed up the game, I guess? Do those games seem to, with guys running all over the place, is it more of a wide open game, I guess?
Yeah, because us DBs, we have more, we're more, I guess, interacted into the game than we would be if it was just running the ball down up the field.
Right. Shifting gears to the Mid-Ohio Athletic Conference, it was Clear Fork 16 and Marion Pleasant 14, and that's probably the game of the year in that conference. You guys scrimmage Clear Fork still?
Yeah, we did. That was our first scrimmage, I think.
Okay.
Yep.
So you have a little knowledge of them. I mean, that's a pretty talented bunch just down the street
Yeah.
from you guys there. I mean, just take us back. I mean, what did they do well, I guess, in their scrimmages? I mean, from what I understand, and I haven't seen them play yet, but they got to be one of the most balanced teams in the area. They can run it and they can throw it equally well.
Yeah, early on they were actually more throwing the ball than running the ball on us. So,
okay.
Yeah.
Right on. Game I covered last week, it was an Ashland County game. It was South Central and Crestview. Crestview actually won that game. It kind of knocked South Central out of playoff contention. They were a team. There's not many teams in the area that haven't been to the playoffs. South Central was one of them. Had they won that game, they would have locked it up. I don't know that they can get enough points this week to get in this week, even if they win. That night, Crestview quarterback Brevin King, I believe is his name, and he ran for 150, threw for 100. I talked to him afterward, and he had a 75-yard touchdown run. And I said, "Is that the longest run of your career?" And he said, "Oh, it's not even close." Yeah, so that's just a roundup of last week.
Those are two teams who've come a long way in 2 years.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Crestview, I kind of feel bad for them because they play a very tough schedule. They're not going to make the playoffs, but they are a team that absolutely has the talent. I think that they could have been in that in that position had a few things broken their way. Week 10, we'll start with the Minutemen. They are hosting, right? You guys aren't going,
Yep,
right?
hosting
Canton South. Canton South is 2-7. They are the Canton South Wildcats in Stark County, 2-7. What do they do well? What are you guys going to have to do well to kind of slow them down?
They run the ball well, so we're going to probably have to we got to stop the run, but we won't have to be worrying about passing that much this game, I don't think.
That's probably a welcome relief.
Oh, yeah.
from those last few games where
Yeah.
it's flying all over the place. Mansfield Senior is at Madison, I believe, in Week 10. It's a traditional rivalry game. Again, Madison is in a position where they're kind of in a rebuild right now, and they got some guys coming, from what I understand. They got a pretty talented sophomore class that are being asked to do a lot of things that maybe sophomores shouldn't be asked to do at the varsity level. And they had an 8th grade football team that was undefeated, and some of those guys I'm sure are going to get thrown into the fire right away next fall. And senior high, it's been kind of like we said, it's been an up and down year for the Tigers. They are 4-5, chance to get to 500, and I'm sure that Coach Chioke Bradley I mean, regardless of how things have gone, if you beat your rival in Week 10, it's a good night.
Yeah, whoever wins Week 10 in Arlen or StarTech goes home happy.
Yeah, absolutely.
Very, very happy, no matter what happened in the season.
And Lex is in a position to do a little scoreboard watching this weekend. Ashland is at Worcester. Worcester especially has an awful lot to play for. They if they win, they are the outright conference champions, and they are most likely going to the playoffs. If Ashland wins, Lex and Worcester share the conference championship, and Worcester probably is sitting home for Week 11. I would imagine you guys are big Ashland Arrow fans this weekend.
Oh, yeah, this week we are.
go Ashland. In the MOAC, Clear Fork, they play Marion Harding this week, I believe, and they wrap it up with the Presidents. That, like we said, that Clear Fork team is just something else. They haven't lost a regular season game this year. They didn't lose a regular season game last year. I think that this year in their region, it's them and St. Mary's Memorial, which is out on the western part of the state. Those are the two teams to beat in that region. It's going to be a lot of fun to watch Dave Carroll and the Colts here in the next few weeks. Jared Schaefer's a guy we had come in and do the podcast a few weeks back, and a super smart kid, super nice kid. And when you got a kid like that who's touching the ball on every play as your quarterback, that's a good spot to be in. Other games in the area that are of interest, Lucas, and this, I tell you, I don't necessarily feel bad for Lucas because it's a very good football team, but they have to play whoever they can play because they're not in the conference, and you just gotta. And they're in a position now that they're so good that no Division 7 schools want to play them anymore.
Yeah, the points risk is too great.
Yeah, so Lucas, as a reward for their awesome 7-2 season, they have to travel to Lima and play an undefeated Lima Central Catholic team, who's a team in Division 6 that is they're in a really rugged division in Division 6, along with Coldwater and Marion Local, those teams from the Midwest Athletic Conference that win state championships every year. Nonetheless, I mean that's a tall task for the Cubs. The good news for Lucas is regardless of what happens, they're going to be at home in Week 11 hosting a game.
Silver lining of that is that's a pre-playoff game.
Yeah, absolutely.
You can knock out some playoff jitters early. So I mean, win or lose, good things.
Yeah, absolutely. Other area games of interest, Ontario, Ontario started the season strong. They knocked you guys off in a game that I'm sure that it was a 14-7 game, could have gone either way. Warriors started 3-1. They have lost 5 in a row since then in conference games. I'm sure they feel a little snake bitten out there. It doesn't get any easier for them. They are at Marion Pleasant this weekend. That's a tough ask for those guys, especially with a new coach and a new system.
Well, that's a good starting year for that program. If you're looking at a program reset, that's there's a lot of good takeaways to build on.
Right, and I mean they're 3-6 now, and I can't speak for them, but I would imagine if you knock off a Marion Pleasant team in Week 10, that's a good way to vault into the off season a little bit there. Other local games, Shelby. It's been kind of an up and down season for Shelby. They started the season with 3 wins. Again, a team that you guys. I mean, that was a very close game. Probably a game that you guys felt got away from you there.
Yeah.
They were 3-0. They have only won once since then. They come into the Week 10 game against Vermilion at 4-5. I know that Eric Will was wildly disappointed with his team's performance. Last time I covered them, they were at Norwalk and they got beat 49-0, and that was kind of the game that things kind of began to come off the rails for the Whippets, and they haven't really recovered since then. Again, it's one of those situations where if you can get a win going into the off season, they got a bunch of guys coming back too that are all sophomores like Madison. I mean, a lot of young guys. Their quarterback, McGuire Albert's a guy who came in here, did the podcast earlier in the year. He's a junior, so he's coming back. They got a really talented running back. They got some core guys. I understand. In talking to some people last week, they had like 9 injuries though. So that's the stuff that begins to take its toll on you, especially in when you get into the smaller schools, the Division 4s and 5s and 6s.
Well, yeah, that's one thing I was going to comment earlier. A lot of the schools around here, there is no such thing. When we're all 50, 60 miles outside the big city, there is no such thing as a big school around here. And so a lot of the things for high school football fans, I think patience year to year and understanding that there is an ebb and flow and dues to be paid.
Right. Over in Ashland County, the other 2 area schools who are in playoff position, Hillsdale is Division 6, Region 22. We had Alex Becker in earlier in the year, my nephew. He was dealt with some hamstring issues, but he is finally getting back to healthy. They're 7-2. They host Waynedale in that conference. If they win, there's a very good chance that Hillsdale will host its first ever playoff game, and I've got a little bit more invested in that one than in most games. I'd like to see my nephew go out in style there. Also in Ashland County, Mapleton, the Mounties are 6-3. There's a pretty good chance that they're going to host a playoff game too. They play a 2-7 Western Reserve team. They're at home. They got a quarterback, a guy named Logan Farmar, who has rewritten Mapleton's passing record books, and that's a fun team to watch. I saw them early in the year. They throw it all over the place, and for a small school, a D7 school, there's a bunch of athletes on the field. So I think that's going to wrap it up. That's a look at the area. We'll be back next week. We'll have a playoff special week, I guess. Until then, we appreciate you stopping by. It's been West Fourth and Goal.